At the home stretch now, we just got to install the 3-prong and we can hear it. There's still some more things to do like I mentioned before, but to be able to turn it on and hear it, we just need the 3-prong installed. I'm going to undo, or rather clip, all of these zip ties here that are not original. We'll replace those with some and just kind of reroute all of this to be a little bit cleaner. Yeah, in the process, but first let's just get the 3-prong in. I'm also going to be doing a chassis ground for the 3-prong. I'll probably end up doing it maybe right here or over here, one of those two spots since there's room. So let's get prepped and rolling. Perfect. So the 3-prong is now in with the strain relief, so we can move that out of the way and focus on wiring this puppy. So what I'm thinking, we have neutral, which is going to be going to this red wire right here. I can either run it directly like that, or I think what I'm going to do instead is actually just not rely on this at all and connect these two together directly. We'll get a really solid connection. We'll just bypass this entire thing. Just leave it there for the looks of it, but we won't actually be using it. Just so we ensure we have a really stable connection. We'll just heat shrink these two together, tuck it off, kind of just put it over here. It'll be tucked away. And we can actually cut this a little bit shorter as well to make sure that this is the longest of the connections. And then the hot is just going to go really short, just right here, like that, to the fuse tip. So I think that's what we'll do. We're going to go ahead and just heat this up and see if I can pull this wire out easily before we kind of make any decisions, and let that be our guide. All right, I wasn't sure exactly how that would be sitting inside that. I've never used one like that before, so we do have this plenty of lead length to do a nice heat shrunk J-hook, so I think we'll move forward with that, and we can just kind of run it under here out of the way of everything. Perfect. So there's the hot done. Now we just got the neutral and the earth connection. So as I look at this a little bit closer here, we've got this yellow wire from the new power transformer, new in quotation marks, the replaced power transformer should say, and it's really too long for this position. So we can shorten this down, and then kind of same thing with the blue and the gray here, or we can just route these underneath the switches and pop them up over here. So that can be redone. This orange wire is basically perfect length to go for where it's at. So I'm kind of just thinking everything will be connected like this. This yellow wire will be much more tightly cut. And then we can have this lead going here, these going up and under like the yellow is, and then we can have the neutral cut fairly short and just shrink wrapped kind of right here like this, but cut shorter like that. So those can be connected right there. And then all of this can be kind of brought up together. This wire is again a bit short. So instead of being able to go all the way around, it's got to cut a bit short there, but that's not the end of the world. So I think that's what we're going to do. So let's just set this aside real quick and focus on redoing this yellow and this blue and this gray. So now that we got those wires out of the way, we can kind of circle back to how we want to route everything here. So we're trying to get an extremely tight J-hook here, connecting the neutral to one of the primaries of the power transformer. All right, that looks pretty dang good. So we'll go ahead and solder those up together, and then we'll heat shrink it up after. So it's not the prettiest thing in the world. However, it is definitely going to be something I trust more than connecting both connections here to this little tag board. So definitely a bit more function over form there. And we can kind of hide it a little bit with other stuff, but that is the proper way to do it. You want the neutral connected directly to a primary, which is exactly what we've done there. So now we can go ahead and I think we'll just use the zip tie, honestly. That might be the easiest. All right, that actually covers it up pretty well. So now we can go ahead and zip tie this, and then zip tie this section. Just 2 more zip ties, and we should be okay. I might end up going back to the store at some point and getting smaller zip ties, but this is all I have on hand, and it's certainly not the end of the world. And that just leaves one last connection. We just got to do the chassis solder joint right here. So let's go ahead and mark that. Try and give myself enough room to not really have to worry about hitting anything. All right, well, my little iron, and I say little, I think it's a 100-watt Weller, was just not getting a good connection I was super confident into the chassis. So I busted out this old guy, 150 watts, so a bit more juice, a lot more danger, seems way larger, much harder to use. But I think I can at least get the starting solder joint here just to get it on the chassis, get some connection, and then we can kind of bring in the other iron. So we'll start here. All right, that already looks way better. So I'm hoping I can switch over to the other iron and put it on top of that with the wire. So we're going to try that first because this is going to be really hard to not burn the insulation with. It's just so thick. So let's put this off to the side and grab the other iron. That'll be nice and solid. Okay, cool. That was a lot more difficult than I was expecting it to be, but we got there in the end. And yeah, okay, we can go ahead and I guess fire it up now. So I'll do one last check of everything before doing so, but we should be good to go. Okay, everything is mocked up. It is finally time to turn the amplifier on after we did all of that work. So I've got no power tubes in it right now, just the preamp tubes. We're running into the variac as well as the current limiter. And I just want to check voltages, make sure we're getting negative bias, all of those sort of things. And then we'll put the power tubes in, check the bias, and kind of go from there. So let's get the variac going, just slowly bring that up, and I'll keep you guys in the loop as we go on. So I can't really show you guys just because my camera lens is not wide enough, but one thing to note for myself is that the death cap is connected to a turret right here, which has a lead coming off the power transformer. If I flip the polarity switch, it gets voltage. So right now it's getting no volts AC, and then if I flip the polarity switch, it's getting the full wall voltage going through the death cap. That's not what we want, so we're just going to move that red lead to one of the turrets that's not being used over here. So just a little note there for myself. We'll go back to monitoring the HT fuse here for the high voltage. And we're at about 95 volts from the wall, so everything's looking good so far. Negative 33, negative 33. So everything is appearing to be operating correctly. So I think we can go ahead and turn off the power, and then we'll grab the bias probe in the power tubes and slowly bring up the voltage again with those and check bias and kind of work our way with the tubes in it. So I don't have a great way of showing me checking the bias and adjusting the bias just because of the way my camera is set up. There's no way for me to go any higher up to give you guys a better field of view. And with the tubes in the bias probe sockets, it makes it extremely tall. So the amp itself, the chassis has to be lifted really high. So anyways, I've got a very minimum amount of headroom or space I can move things around. So instead of that, I've already checked it, but I'm going to just show you guys on camera real quick what it biases to, or what I have it set to currently with the bias right. And this is the first time with 4 different tubes checking at once, which is kind of a neat feature and why I bought this in the first place. So we'll go ahead and show what that looks like. Currently, we're plugged into the variac. We've got the cab plugged just behind me. So we'll go ahead and turn it on with it not off standby. Should be warmed up by now. Let's go ahead and flick it on. We are a little under 120 volts from the wall. With all my lights and everything here in the garage, it'll dip a bit. But anyways, plate voltage, we see 429, 429, 428, 429. So that all looks good. And then we'll check the current. 33, 30. This one's quite low, 26, 32 or so. Phase inverter, getting some popping there. But either way, if we check the bias on this, I don't have the calculator in front of me, but I believe this will put us just around 50, 55, 60 maybe percent, somewhere in that range. Certainly fine. They are not perfectly matched tubes, but that's not the end of the world by any means. You know, the amp actually doesn't sound very noisy at all. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. We can explore other tubes down the line, but this is a very valuable vintage set of tubes, and I've not detected any major issues with them yet. So anyways, we can move on. I'm going to clean these tube sockets and figure out what's going on here real quick. But yeah, I'll go and do that now. So now that we've confirmed the amp is working and largely healthy, there are a few things I want to button up real quick. The first being this red wire going from the polarity switch over here to this leg of the death cap. We want to remove that connection. We'll leave the death cap as is. We're just going to move that red wire over to one of the unused terminals over here that's not connected to anything. So that'll all look the same, but it won't function anymore by sending voltage, AC voltage across this cap. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll move over to some other things like the volume pot. Well, that wire's insulation just instantly melted when I tried to hold on to it when I was soldering on this end, which is unfortunate. So it got a little mangled, not gonna lie, but ultimately that does not matter. There's no bearing on anything. It's just an original wire that had no modern purpose. So at least it's out of the way and no longer connected to the death cap here. So this is completely out of the circuit now, and we can go ahead and shift our focus to things that do matter. So what I think I'm going to do is just remove the leads of the pot, remove the bus wire off the back of the pot, take the pot out, and then we'll go ahead and clean it up, see if we can find a date code on it to see if we can confirm the year of it, to see if it is a original, which I don't think it is, or a replacement. And then from there, we'll either put in a brand new pot, because this one does seem to have no functionality from 0 to like 3 or so. Doesn't seem to do anything in that range. So we'll test it out of circuit as well and see the resistance and see what's going on there. But first things first, I think we'll just go ahead and desolder these connections and redo it. Well, the hardware appears to be the same as the originals, so that's that. But then you'll notice there's a little hole here, which has got kind of the little guide off of the pot. You know, some pots will have the little tab on them. All of these have the tab on them still, but this one. So that tells me this has got to be a replacement, but very old it looks like. And we can't get a date code because of that nasty solder on it. So we're going to remove all this junk and make it nice and fresh and see if it's salvageable or not. There's a good amount of play with this. I don't know if you can tell. All right, I think I got enough off of this pot to be able to read it. And I'll try and show you guys on camera here. EF9380, 1 meg AUD audio. 137, so CTS 7638. So that would be 1976, 38th week. So this is a replacement, but it is a vintage replacement that, yeah, not, you know, just a few years later. Again, it is kind of funky. It feels like there's just some slop in there that I don't love. I'm not sure if there's a way to tighten that or not. I don't think there is. So let's go ahead and get the multimeter out and measure this real quick. We'll take the cap off as well. So it looks like instead of going to a max of a 1 meg, it's maxing out at 660K. So not even close to 1 meg there. So I wanted to demonstrate too. I'm going to turn it and you'll see nothing happen, nothing change here. So nothing's happening, nothing's happening. Almost at a quarter turn and nothing has happened. So look at this slop. See, the multimeter is not moving at all. So that's when we start getting a change. So that whole range is empty on this pot. So I think what I might do is swap this with a proper modern pot. It's not going to be perfect, but I kind of value having more function than I do an original pot. Let me see what these other ones measure. I don't know if these will measure in circuit or not. We'll find out. So you can see this pot is a 1.2 meg measuring versus this one was 600. This one also has very little action in the first quarter or so. And then it starts to come alive right about 4 on the dial. Well, I would have figured I'd have a alpha 1 meg audio, but I do not, unfortunately. But I did find 2 CTS pots here. This one right here is a J-taper style, so kind of what you find in Fenders, for example, Fender volume pots. And I believe I tried this in my Super Reverb, if I remember correctly, and or maybe I bought 2 of them. I can't remember the details on this exactly, but yeah, I believe this is a 1 meg. I'm gonna have to check it here in a second. And then this one is a 1 meg. No markings on it show it's audio taper, but I believe it is. It's already got the lug grounded that we would need grounded anyways. So let's go ahead and check what these read. So just under a meg. So not dead for the first quarter turn. So this one's 700K at half. This one doesn't even get up to 700K. What that does to the tone exactly, I'm not sure. So this one halfway is about 520. This one's right on the money, 1 meg. So roughly halfway in the rotation on this one is 200K. On this one, it was, I believe it was 500K. And this one was about 700 or 600K. Not fully halfway, just halfway on me spinning this. It's not the halfway of the range. It's not a full 360 range on those. So, okay, so these would all give very, very different results. We can play with it. I think we might play with this one first, this J-taper. Give this a shot first, see what that's like. It might just be crazy volume right out the gate, or it might be perfect. I don't know, but I think let's start with this one. This one's got me the most intrigued. All right, that feels pretty good to me. So I think we can go ahead and test this. And now we're going to use the aux box this time since it's too late, and we can kind of go through the sweep and see how that feels and detect any more issues. Let's get that set up.